Grocery shortages are becoming one of the most immediate concerns for consumers all across the nation. The rate of product stockouts has continued to grow throughout the entire year, but a confluence of factors is making supplies even tighter during this final stretch of 2022 and into the winter. Food manufacturers are dealing with a lot of pressure to ramp up production to meet the growing demand, but many of these producers are facing challenges that do not allow them to do so at such short notice. On top of that, crop failures have been widespread this year, affecting a whole host of product categories at the stores. A lack of labor is also one of the reasons why we're still seeing so many empty shelves. According to Jim Dudleycheck, a representative for the National Grocers Association, there simply aren't enough people to make the goods, move the goods, and sell the goods. He also noted that supply is being affected by more people cooking and eating at home, especially now the rising prices of restaurant menus are out of the reach of many financially strained Americans. Demand remains very high. That's why we're having trouble finding grocery staples and some of our favorite products at our local supermarkets. In today's video, we've compiled 20 items that seem to have vanished from our store shelves these days. But before moving on, please support our work with a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Without further ado, here are 20 items that are impossible to find at grocery stores right now. 1. Canned goods. Aluminum availability is still a concern. It may be more difficult to find those canned, ready-to-eat items on store shelves, said Oklahoma State University food economist Rodney Holcomb. Since the final quarter of 2021, a global shortage of aluminum has been impacting the U.S. manufacturing sector and resulting in a reduced supply of products like tomato paste, canned vegetables, beverages, teas, and soda. The canned goods you may still find are also likely to be far more expensive. Aluminum prices have increased considerably over the course of this year, increasing over 40% since January, almost 9% in the past month, explained Jayson L. Lusk, a distinguished professor and head of the Department of Agricultural Economics at Purdue University. That's why the best and cheapest option is always to buy glass jars and sturdy lids to do the canning yourself at home. 2. Soft drinks. Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Dr. Pepper, and Charmin are just a few of the brands reporting shortages and cutbacks on the production of some flavors to maintain supplies of their best-selling items. The carbon dioxide shortage and the squeezed supply of aluminum cans hit the supply of carbonated drinks particularly hard. Now we have fewer options available at the stores, and we're seeing prices go through the roof. According to IRI, store stocks of carbonated drinks dropped by 15% in the third quarter, which represents a shortfall of 12 million cans and bottles of soft drinks. 3. Juice boxes and Lunchables. Now, shortages are affecting your kids' lunchtime staples too. Many schools all across America are reporting massive food shortages since September, and parents are seeing empty shelves where their kids' favorite snacks used to be. According to Kraft Heinz, during the pandemic, the company was forced to lower its production of low-selling products to boost the production of items that were in high demand during lockdowns. Since then, supplies of Lunchables never came back to where they were before the health crisis, but demand has seen double-digit growth. At the same time, on Twitter and Reddit, parents have been reporting juice box shortages in big retail chains such as Walmart and Costco. It's also an issue that many school districts are facing for their own school lunch supplies. Some stores are still completely out, and others could be soon. 4. Over-the-counter medications. NCS reports that more than 3/4 of U.S. stores were out of painkillers, antibiotics, and respiratory medications during the first 3 weeks of October, and about 1 in 5 were out for more than 20 days. Stores are also running short on allergy meds at steadily rising rates as consumers rush to stock up before the cold weather begins. Out-of-stock rates have been rising since July, and with cold and flu season looming, NCS warns we expect these rates to remain elevated. 5. Water bottles. Since the summer, water bottle shortages are being reported, with some stores placing purchase limits to avoid running out of stock. The problem is that manufacturers are facing a shortage of raw materials, which is reducing supplies of plastic bottles all around the globe. Many brands like Evian, Highland Spring, Volvic still out of stock in the United States. 6. Avocados. If you're an avocado lover, then you probably already have noticed it's been harder to find them on store shelves these days. This year, safety threats at food plants in Mexico led the government to suspend imports of Mexican avocado for months. Even though the suspension has already been lifted, its effects have remained. Mexican producers started selling their avocados to other markets, and the United States was left at the end of their list. When imports finally resumed, prices were at an all-time high, and many missing shipments after that also caused existing shortages to worsen. When you do find avocados at the store again, you'll probably have to pay 30% more to bring them home. 7. Olive oil. The essential cooking oil is facing extensive shortages after major producers in Spain and Italy went through one of the most brutal droughts on record. Across Western Europe, June and July temperatures broke 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and widespread drought dried up miles and miles of soil. Analysts estimate that olive oil production from Spain dropped by 30% compared to last year, and supplies from Italy similarly saw a 20 to 30% decrease as well, according to The Guardian. 8. Liquor. Supplies of champagne, wine, and beer are very tight right now. The shortage of carbon dioxide, aluminum cans, and the rising price of raw ingredients are making beer more expensive and also harder to find. Meanwhile, a glass shortage and lower production of wine grapes this year are leaving wine lovers with fewer choices, and that may be the norm for the foreseeable future. As for champagne, since 2020, demand has been dropping, and the Comité Interprofessionnel de Vente de Champagne, CIVC, the trade organization for the Champagne region, responded by reducing the production cap based on changing consumer patterns. But now that demand is starting to rise again, there's simply not enough supply for everyone. 9. Soup. Ready-to-eat foods are still in high demand, especially those produced by legacy brands like Campbell's and Progresso, which give us nostalgic comfort and good shelf stability. Since the summer, demand has been elevated, even though soup sales typically decline during this period. According to NCS, in August, around 35% of stores were reporting that soups were out of stock. Kelsey Romhelt, communications manager for Progresso parent General Mills, revealed the soup line saw nearly 100% retail sales growth in the last quarter. However, to deal with strained supply lines, Progresso temporarily reduced its portfolio from nearly 90 kinds of soup to about 50. Campbell's also reduced product variety to cope with shortages of different ingredients. Less variety also means that finding your favorite flavor may become a lot harder this winter as demand jumps. 10. Paper towels. A global shortage of pulp is causing all paper products to be in short supply. Some retailers are reporting that they're running out of stock, and a new report released by the Wall Street Journal linked persistent shortages of paper towels to the fact that manufacturers are adopting a lean manufacturing model that emphasizes efficiency. Produce what you can ship and sell quickly with little excess capacity, but that's left stores unprepared for a tidal wave of demand that was not anticipated. The report noted that since March 2020, people are afraid of running out because they saw what happened back then. There are so many uses for paper towels, they're going through it almost as fast as they are toilet paper, and consumers want to have it on hand, researchers noted in an IRI survey. 11. Pet food. One of the consequences of the shortage of aluminum was also a decline in the supply of pet foods. Shipping issues also contributed to shortages of dog and cat food all over the country, with several local papers reporting bare shelves at pet stores. Now, even big retailers like Walmart, Target, and Amazon are reporting shortages of pet food, leaving many pet owners scrambling to meet the dietary needs of their esteemed companions. 12. Chickpeas. This year, global supplies of chickpeas dropped by 20%, according to data Reuters acquired from the Global Pulse Confederation. With global grain supplies significantly lower since the Ukraine crisis broke out, the shortage of chickpeas didn't take too long to hit our stores. To make things worse, this summer, around half of chickpeas growers in the U.S. decided to abandon their crops due to declining water levels amid heat waves and drought. Chickpeas crops require high water usage, but with high temperatures drying up our reservoirs, many farmers preferred to drop chickpeas in favor of other crops, which means our domestic supplies of the grain are also significantly smaller. Combine all this with a series of food supply chain issues, and you may have to start using other beans in your hummus recipe. If you're lucky to find it at your local supermarket and chickpeas are a must in your diet, stock up on them now because it will take a while before supplies normalize. 13. Pasta. Shrinking supplies of flour and a recent product recall mean that you may not find your favorite pasta at the supermarket this holiday season. Major pasta maker Barilla recently revealed it's reducing the range of products it offers as it can no longer meet the growing demand amid a global shortage of wheat. A massive recall is also taking place right now, with the company pointing to inappropriate levels of iron and placing an import alert. 14. Frozen pizza. Believe it or not, carbon dioxide is also one of the main ingredients in the production of many frozen foods, including frozen pizza. The carbon dioxide helps protect frozen foods from spoiling, also preserves the taste and texture of frozen products during storage and transportation. So, if you see the frozen pizza aisle just as bare as the beer and soft drink aisles, now you know why. 15. Baby formula. Since the beginning of the year, a shortage of baby formula is keeping parents up at night. They have been taking to social media to ask where they can find formula and even trying to come up with their own recipes. In February, brands like Enfamil, Similac, and Gerber cited production problems, shortages of ingredients, and possible contamination at several manufacturing plants that led to the destruction of several batches of the product. To make things worse, when supplies finally made it to the stores and shelves were being restocked, a baby formula recall added even more pressure on parents, who are still struggling to find the product to this very day. 16. Butter. The New York Post reported that, based on data from the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, the amount of butter held within U.S. storage facilities in August fell 10% month over month. Even more worrying, it was down by a total of 22% compared to the same time in 2021. Prices are climbing fast too. The Bureau of Labor Statistics said that in October, butter prices rose by a staggering 25%. The shortage is essentially a domino effect, with dairy farmers facing higher costs, which leads to less milk being produced, less butter being churned. On top of all that, labor shortages are making it hard to ramp up production. Tanner Imker, a lead economist at Cobank, says that churns are slowing production due to tight U.S. milk supplies and short staffing at plants, and this is happening all across the United States. According to the USDA's report, distributors in the West are running reduced production schedules and therefore cannot keep up with the amount of butter that's apparently needed this year. In the Midwest and Northeast, the fate of butter is the same. Supply is very tight to unavailable. 17. Pumpkins. During the Halloween of 2022, you may have noticed that pumpkin prices were higher while pumpkins were smaller. The reason why it's been so hard to find the fruit is just pure bad luck in the form of a ravaging fungus that's destroyed thousands of pumpkin crops across major production states. In California, abnormally dry weather has been especially hard on pumpkins. This year is the hardest I've seen for Californian-grown pumpkins, said Lyra Marble, a pumpkin patch owner in Culver City, California. It may take a year or two before production recovers, Marble added. 18. Liquid hand soap. A shortage of plastic pumps and plastic bottles has affected the production of liquid hand soap and pushed manufacturers to promote refill containers and pump reuse. But a bigger problem is that producers did not anticipate that demand would keep rising even after 2.5 years of the pandemic. Even if they have the infrastructure to speed production, there's major competition down the supply chain for ingredients. And when hand soap does get to the stores, consumers clear out shelves really fast, worried they won't see it next time. Even if a genuine need isn't there, people will buy it if they see it's available, says IRI's Joan Triggers. 19. Sriracha. In June, the Hoi Fong company that makes the famous hot sauce sriracha announced that all chili peppers not only continue to be in very short supply since the start of the pandemic, but that extreme weather this summer has hit major chili growing regions in Mexico and U.S. West Coast, making the shortage a whole lot worse. Bottles are flying off the shelves since then as hot sauce lovers rush to hoard their beloved sauce. And 20. Frozen vegetables. Consumers continue to turn to nutritious food that lasts longer, either on the shelf or in the freezer. B&G Foods, the owner of Green Giant, notes that sales are up by more than 50% in the past few months. Numbers like that have helped make canned and frozen vegetables some of the hardest to find items among the food categories tracked by IRI, with store supplies down by almost 41% the first week of October compared to a year ago levels. Now, if there's something you want to get your hands on, go out there and buy it while you still can, because given the pace at which things are disappearing from our stores, tomorrow it might be too late. Stockpile with conscience and kindness, because your neighbor needs supplies to feed their family too. This crisis is much more complex than it looks, and stocks will remain dramatically lower at the stores for quite some time. In 2023, a perfect storm of events may lead us to a far more nightmarish supply chain crisis than the one we saw in 2020. So, we must be prepared for the worst.